All right, good afternoon. My name is Craig Schluter, and I am the project manager for the Brentwood Bound project. On behalf of the city of Brentwood, thank you for sharing part of your afternoon with us. Tonight, we have a presentation on the Brentwood Bound project that should last around 30 minutes, and we sincerely hope it excites all of you for what is to come in the not so distant future. I must say I am jealous because you all will have one of the best parks in the region within footsteps of your home. To walk through this project, I am accompanied by Bola Akande, the city administrator of Brentwood, Andy Frankie, who is the landscape architect at Planning Design Studio, Phil Blon, who is the engineering firm with Jacobs, Eric Grunsfelder, who is the Parks and Rec director for the city of Brentwood, and Janet Levy is behind a logo that says Brentwood. She's the communication manager. And it sounds like Lisa's going to be joining us shortly, who is the planning director for the city of Brentwood. So a brief agenda for tonight. First off, how to ask questions. So at the bottom of Zoom, there's a Q&A button. If you have any questions, you can type your questions there. We will do our best to respond to your questions at the end of this presentation. If there are any questions that we're not able to address, we will get back with you after this presentation. Also, at the end of this presentation, there is an email link. So if you think of questions after this is done, you can email the group with this email link, and we will also get back to you that way. So rest assured, there are multiple ways to ask questions, and this team will get back to you, if not at the end of the presentation, shortly thereafter. I'll first start off by going through what Brentwood Bound is. Brentwood Bound is a combination of three projects: the flood mitigation project, Manchester Road improvements, and the Deer Creek Greenway connector. I'll talk about schedule and funding. I'll talk about the renderings. Andy Frankie will actually go through all the before and after renderings that are really exciting. Phil Blon with Jacobs will talk about the Norm West Park features, the executive walk apartments, new ingress and egress, which are a requirement of this Brentwood Bound project. And then he'll talk about the Norm West Park schedule, along with the executive apartments, new change of access, and when those improvements will take place. After we go through all this, we will answer the questions like I mentioned earlier. So with schedule and funding, the city just started planning Brentwood Bound back in 2016. Really, they started the major design back in 2018, but all Brentwood Bound projects will have the design completed by spring of 21. The city started phased construction in December of 2019. If you notice at the bottom of your hill, some of the old West buildings were demoed early part of 2020. That was the first phase that took place in construction. The city just accepted bids for the next phase of construction, which will remove the remaining buildings at the bottom of your hillside, along with some other buildings to the east. There will also be flood mitigation and park construction that will take place over the next couple of years, and all of Brentwood Bound will be constructed and completed by winter of 2022. The city is funding the project, which is $79.6 million, and this funding covers the basic intent of the three projects I mentioned earlier, which are flood mitigation, Manchester Road improvements, and the Deer Creek Greenway connector. And I say the basic improvements because there are some unfunded enhancements that we'll talk about later in this presentation that we have gone out to the citizens of Brentwood and gotten a survey of what are priorities for the citizens. The city may elect to fund those with grants and partnerships and private donations, but that is uncertain at this point. That's something the city will look at a later date and determine if that's something that they want to do. So this first slide shows the flooding issues that were in this area. To the left is Brentwood Boulevard. Right here, this street is Manchester Road, and to the right down here is Hanley Road. And the blue shows where all the water would go during a major storm event. And as you can see at the bottom of your hillside, the water would go up and flood all these buildings. It would flood Norm West Park. It would flood Manchester Road and a lot of these development buildings right along Manchester Road. And that really is what, that problem is what started Brentwood Bound, because the city decided to address the flooding issues to really allow this area to be improved in the future. So this is what that area looks like without the flooding. Your homes are over here on the left. Again, Brentwood Boulevard's here, Manchester Road goes across, and Hanley Road is over here. This slide shows when Brentwood Bound is complete, what it will look like. And this shows all the flood mitigation improvements and all the park improvements that we're calling the Deer Creek Greenway Connector. This slide shows that once it's done, and during that same storm event that I showed you earlier, how the water is captured in the areas where the city ultimately wants the water to go. And that means the water is no longer going to Manchester Road. That means the water is no longer flooding the buildings that are along Manchester Road to allow for future improvements to occur. This is being done by Deer Creek being made a more efficient creek by building these lakes to allow water to be captured during storm events, and also by removing some buildings from the floodplain. The next project is the Manchester Road improvements. So while the city was working on how to address the flooding, they learned about how MoDOT was doing improvements on Manchester Road from Hanley all the way down to Lindbergh and Kirkwood. The city was able to work with MoDOT and for a fraction of the cost, do enhancements beyond the MoDOT enhancements to improve the Brentwood section of Manchester Road. So some of those improvements are, we're gonna be doing mill and overlay pavement along Manchester Road. As you can tell, the road direly needs us, especially as Missouri American Water works through the corridor as we speak. They're gonna be replacing the bridge that is at Hanley Road in Manchester. They're gonna be doing sidewalk and ADA improvements, traffic signal improvements. Some of these enhancements that Brentwood's gonna do is they're gonna build a tunnel underneath Manchester Road where Mary Avenue and Van Mark Way intersect Manchester Road. That will allow safe passage from the pedestrians from the new Norm West Park to the south to Rogers Parkway to the north. Brentwood's paying for additional street signage, decorative lighting. They're improving the access management of businesses along Manchester Road, creating more safe conditions. And they're also going to add a 10-foot wide shared use path on the south side of Manchester Road. So ultimately, when you enter Brentwood, either coming from the east, close to Hanley Road, or you're coming from the west, where Brentwood starts at Bremerton, you immediately notice the differences of Manchester Road in the Brentwood area. So that's a quick high-level overview of the flood mitigation and the Manchester Road improvements. I will now turn it over to Andy Franke. He is the landscape architect for Brentwood Bound, and he will talk about the park improvements.
Thanks. So the next series of slides that are going to pop up here are before and after renderings of the various aspects of the Brentwood Bound project. We're going to be looking first at this image, which is if we were hovering above basically the intersection of Brentwood Boulevard and Russell Avenue. So you can see just to the right of this image, the Bi-State Metro Garage. You can see Brentwood Materials, and you can see Brentwood Plastics in the background. You can kind of see the Suburban Tracks roadway going off and then towards Mary Avenue. The next slide is the after image. And as soon as that pops up. So this is what's going to happen afterwards. You can see that we're creating an extension of Brazeau Avenue will actually intersect Brentwood Boulevard. You can see our GRG connector trail kind of winding its way through from that intersection. So it'll go northbound up to through Norm West Park, all the way up to Manchester Road and under the tunnel. It'll also go southbound from this intersection all the way down to the Deer Creek Greenway. Some other things that you see in this image are a new parking lot. That's a 69-car parking lot. The new, I guess, renovated soccer field in Norm West Park. And then in the background, you can also see the Mary Avenue storage basin. Farther back in the image, you can see the Phase 1 trail that's going to go through the flood mitigation area. And in the way back, you can also see the redevelopment area. There's a few future elements that are labeled on this image. One is a future playground and water park area. One is a future dog park, and then another one is a future event lawn. One thing to note is the future elements are unfunded and they're contingent on approval of funding to make them happen. So what you're really seeing in this rendering are the items that are currently funded through the Brentwood Bound project. So we'll move on to the next slide. And the next slide is an image from Manchester Road looking southeast. You can kind of see Arby's in the foreground and Ace Hardware. And you can see Mary Avenue in the background kind of slicing through the image as well. So this is the before image. The after image shows that actually where the GRG connector trail will come out on the south side of Manchester Road under the underpass that's going to be built as part of the Manchester Road improvement parts of the project. You can see the GRG connector trail snake through there. One of the things that's really apparent is you can see the Mary Avenue storage basin right in the middle of the image. You can also see the phase 1 trail that will kind of peel off from our GRG connector trail and move down through the flood mitigation area. This is a reverse image. You can, in the right-hand side of this image, see the soccer field and then the future dog park as well. So this gives you a pretty good idea of what's going to happen within Norm West Park. One of the other things that you can just barely see in this image on the right, just below the soccer field, is the Executive Walk Parkway, or Executive Walk apartments that will remain as part of this project. And finally, immediately adjacent to those apartments will be the amphitheater. Not immediately adjacent, but kind of a little bit farther on the east side. So that's the after image for that one. The next image is a before image of, what do we got coming up? I believe that'll be the phase 1 trail. So this is the before image when it comes up. We got a little bit of a delay here.
Okay.
This is the existing phase 1 kind of flood mitigation area right now today. You can see the Union Pacific Railroad kind of slicing through there as well. This is almost like if we were hovering above the Owens property today. You can see the storage units in the upper left-hand corner of the image. So this is the before. The after image shows the extent of the expansion of the floodplain area, and it will also show the phase 1 trail coming through that area. And and you can see Deer Creek once a lot of the vegetation's removed and the grading is done. You can kind of see Deer Creek will be there as well. So in the background behind this, you can see the redevelopment area. So this flood mitigation area will serve as an amenity for the redevelopment area and the trail as well. The next slide that we're going to show you is a before image of what we're calling the phase 2 flood mitigation area. And when this slide pops up on the right-hand side of that slide, you're going to see the Auto House BMW building on the right-hand side. You can see Deer Creek direct behind it. And you can also see Breckenridge Industrial Drive, or Court, excuse me, coming through on the left-hand side of the image. So this is the before image. Some of the other landmarks are Popeyes and Joy Luck, and then Frederick Roofing, all kind of towards the Manchester Road, the project. This is the after image. So one of the first things that you see here is the new Breckenridge Industrial Bridge over Deer Creek. You can see the phase 1 trail that's coming from the west and actually will go underneath that bridge. And then it'll come into the phase 2 flood mitigation area. The phase 2 flood mitigation area will have 2 basins or flood storage areas in it. You can see the first one kind of immediately south of the car wash area. There'll be another one located on the Frederick Roofing property. Snaking through this area is a trail that will connect the phase 1 trail up to the south side of Manchester Road, where there'll be a multi-use path that'll be constructed as part of the Manchester Road improvements as well. So one of the other things that's important to understand about that image is MSD has a tunnel facility kind of right in the middle of that, and that's shown, or Craig's got his cursor right now. Nice job, Craig. Thanks for pointing all that stuff out for me. The next image that we have, and I think this is our final image, is an image of, you can see an aerial, if we were kind of hovering over Brentwood Boulevard and Marshall Avenue, so we're looking at the Bi-State Garage facility. This is the before image. One of the things that I want to point out in the bottom right-hand corner of this is the Deer Creek Greenway. So this is the greenway that GRG built, and it goes all the way to Maplewood through Webster Groves. And this is what we're trying to connect to all the way from Manchester Road. So this is going to be a really great project for the citizens of Brentwood. It's going to give them access to the GRG trail. And Craig just popped up that trail. You can see our connection coming through. It'll come along Brentwood Boulevard in front of the Bi-State Garage. It'll kind of swing out and then go over a bridge extension that'll extend over Deer Creek and then connect up to the GRG connector. One of the other things that we have as a label for future is we're trying to identify the area immediately south of the Bi-State property as a future wetland restoration project as well. That's a long-term project, but we hope one day to achieve that as well. So that's a quick snapshot of the projects, primarily the flood mitigation and the GRG connector projects. And next, I'd like to turn it over to Phil Blond. He's going to talk a little bit about, I believe, Executive Walk and Norm West Park and new improvements there.
Thanks, Andy. Just to orientate everybody here, there's an existing aerial photo on the left, and the items, the existing Mary Avenue is pointed out by number 1. Number 2 is the current location of the Executive Walk apartments. Well, the apartments themselves are not moving, but there is a proposed change to their access. So currently, people who live in those apartment buildings drive on Mary Avenue and enter their parking lot from Mary Avenue. So that's number 2. Number 3 is with existing Norm West Park. There's a temporary dog park and a soccer field there presently. And number 4 is a MSD diversion structure. That structure is currently there. We will continue to provide access, allow MSD to access that facility, of course, so they can continue their activities. So the next slide shows the proposed conditions for the same area. As you can see, there's a number of new improvements. Number 1 up at the top is the new tunnel under Manchester Road. They'll connect the Rogers Parkway path with the GRG connector path. The Deer Creek Connector Trail is number 2. That trail will go from Brentwood's internal trail all the way down to where you just saw Andy's show the last slide that Andy was talking about. It connects down Marshall Avenue to another Deer Creek Greenway that was recently built going through Webster Groves. I mean, eventually this Brentwood trail system will be connected via the GRG trails through GRG's entire system. So go on GRG's website and you can see their plans for how they plan to connect a whole host of future trails. So that'd be really great to have access to that. Number 3 is additional trail going through the Deer Creek flood mitigation area towards Manchester Road, closer to Hanley. That's where that trail ends up. And the number 4 is the Executive Walk apartments. Number 5 is the location of their new access. All of the improvements that you see on the map here, including some of the ones I haven't quite pointed out yet, but all of those improvements plus some additional plans that MSD has all contributed to no longer being able to provide access to the apartment buildings via Mary Avenue. Mary Avenue, by and large, is going away. It's becoming this area will just become parkland. So the existing Executive Walk apartments, their parking lot on the west side nearly abuts an existing public street, Brazeau Avenue. So the proposed plan is to construct a new entrance to their existing parking lot from the west directly to Brazeau. They're about 24 apartments in the buildings right now. So you go to number 6 is the Mary Avenue storage basin that you saw in some previous slides. Number 7 is a flood improvement area and extending well east off the screen, area of improved floodplain that the Deer Creek Connector Trail goes through. Number 8 is the MSD structure that's presently on Mary Avenue that'll be accessible via the trail. Number 9 is the proposed soccer field that's roughly in a similar location as the existing one, but it will be a newly constructed soccer field. Number 10 is the future playground water play area adjacent to the soccer field. That will be part of the project pending future funding, as well as number 11 is a planned area for the event lawn, and number 12 is a planned area for a future dog park. And then another thing that's in the works potentially would be a traffic signal should St. Louis County approve that to allow to improve access to, and so Brazeau Avenue would be extended to intersect with Brentwood Boulevard where the present Russell intersection is, so there'd be a new 4-way intersection. Also, not a part of the Brentwood Bound project technically, but just south of there where Brentwood crosses the railroad tracks, there is a MoDOT funded project that will be adding signals to the railroad crossing. So the new intersection would be just north of the railroad track crossing, but there would be swinging arm gates that come down when trains cross. That's also a coming future improvement that is relevant to all of this. So that's the new plan for Brazeau Avenue and the surrounding area beyond the doorsteps of this park. Go to the next slide. So this shows a little more detail as to what's proposed for the Executive Walk apartments. They currently have about 40 spaces. The plan is for them to maintain exactly 40 spaces in their parking lot. You see some extra lines there. The yellow lines are the outline of the proposed parking lot. The pink and green lines that you see kind of bending from Brazeau into and out of the parking lot, that is a traffic turn analysis to demonstrate that a fire truck or a smaller vehicle like a garbage truck would be able to utilize that access and fit through the new entrance and make all the required turns. And both those vehicles are able to do so without impacting the current parking on the west side of Brazeau Avenue. It should be noted that Brazeau Avenue is about 24 feet wide in this area. So the proposed entrance we have is 30 feet wide at the entrance and does narrow to the driving lane between the parking stalls to be about 22 feet wide. There's a new dumpster to be provided that will be enclosed. And that's about all of the highlights there of this new configuration. So we feel that this provides a good alternative access to Executive Walk apartments. So our schedule for when this will occur is the Normal Comfort Station will remain open as it normally does until October 1st, 2020. Construction, you should start to see some construction activity a little bit before that, potentially around September. The dog park and soccer field will remain open through the end of the year, and then there'll be some construction activity that will impact those facilities in the new year. The Executive Walk apartments, the new entrance construction, we don't anticipate that, that's not planned to begin until after the new year. So that we'll see some construction activity associated with that in early 2021. The Executive Walk apartments, the new entrance to Brazeau, we expect that construction to take a few months. So mid-late spring 2021, could be the potential opening date for that new entrance. Mary Avenue will stay, and the entrance to Executive Walk Apartments via Mary Avenue certainly will stay until the new entrance is open, and then it can be closed after that. So that's how I had on the schedule. And I think I'll turn it back over to Craig to close.
Yeah, that's it for our brief presentation. Thank you very much for joining us. As I mentioned, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom where you can type in questions that Janet will soon start reading off. But remember, if you want to ask questions later, or if you think of questions later, please email this email link at the bottom. It's Brentwood Bound at brentwoodmo.org. Again, Brentwood Bound at brentwoodmo.org. And we will get all those questions and we can respond to you in a timely basis. So thank you. And with that, I'll stop sharing the screen. And Janet, are there any questions?
Yes, Craig, we have one question right now. It's, can you possibly provide an approximate date that residents will be rezoned and will be able to drop flood insurance? As we were told previously, that we did not have to wait until the end of the entire project.
Phil, I'll turn that over to you because that's a FEMA related question.
Yeah, right. So we will have to wait until the flood mitigation improvements are constructed, and a process that we take with FEMA that'll take at least 6 months, probably closer to 9 months after the flood mitigation improvements are finished. Some of the parks and trails related improvements may still be constructed during that time while that goes on. So it may not be the complete end of the project, and some of the MoDOT construction may still be going on. But the flood mitigation construction has to be completed before we can begin to finish our process of getting the maps updated. So we still project that to happen in sometime in 2022 or 2023 when the new maps would become effective. The benefit of this is that you can keep your flood insurance and your rates should go down significantly. So your requirement to purchase a flood insurance that may no longer be required, but you may want to think about continuing to purchase the flood insurance at a much lower rate than you may currently pay, just to have that extra protection. But but yeah, you'd be able to drop it probably sometime in 2022 or 2023.
Great, thanks, Phil.
Craig, we have one more question right now. The new executive walkway, is this an asphalt or concrete street? Does this change the base requirements for the roadway?
Right.
Phil, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. The parking lot is asphalt, and it will continue to be asphalt. So the proposed changes is for new asphalt. There's no change to Brazeau Avenue. It's just a connection to the existing street.
Great, thank you. Also, if there are any parts of this project that you're really excited to see, or any part of those park improvements that you're looking forward to using, please also feel free to put that in the Q&A section. We would love to hear some positive feedback from the residents about what they're excited to and look forward to using. Janet, I'm not seeing any new questions. Are you?
No, I'm not seeing any questions.
Okay. Just want to let the attendees know that there's nothing else that's come through.
I have a new question.
Okay.
Can the soccer field and or dog park be moved to allow roadway construction options?
Andy, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, Craig, I can take it. The one thing we have to be really careful when we start moving the soccer field and the dog park around, and we start talking about adding a roadway, is we have to think about where the pathway is going to be located and how people are going to, how many times or where people will cross that roadway. One of the things we worked really hard in our design to do is to make sure that people wouldn't have to cross a roadway to get from a parking lot to a path or the trail. So if we start moving, like sliding the soccer field on the opposite side of the road, and people actually have to park and then cross a roadway, that'd be a dangerous situation. So we're pretty limited on the amount of shifting that we can do to try and get a roadway through. I'm not exactly sure why we would want to move a roadway into the park. One of the other things that we worked really hard to do is to design the park in the road so that the road didn't intrude all the way through the park, so that when people parked, they were in an area or an environment where they didn't have to worry about getting hit by vehicles or having vehicles driving all the way through the park.
Thanks, Andy. I will add that the general look of this park has stayed the same since the April 2019 ballot. So we are very sensitive about changing the overlook of the park and the features of the park, because that's what the citizens voted on, and that's ultimately what the board has been moving forward with. So by putting a brand new road through a park, like Annie said, there's a lot of impacts that could affect features that a lot of people are working towards and are excited about.
We have another question. Will you close Manchester Road from Brentwood to Hanley during any of the construction where we will need to take alternate routes?
So I'll take that one. When MoDOT removes the bridge that's on Manchester Road close to Hanley Road, they will have to remove that bridge and build a brand new bridge. They cannot restore or renovate that existing bridge. It requires a completely new bridge to be built in that location. So Manchester Road will be closed either in summer of 21 or summer of 2022. We won't know what summer until they take bids this fall and they work with the contractor on those shutdown timeframes. But that is the one time that Manchester Road will be shut down, is during that approximately 3-month period in summer 21 or summer of 2022. Janet, I'm not seeing any other questions, are you?
I am not.
Okay, we'll wait a few minutes. Looks like we're down to 14 attendees. I know we started at 18. We're at 13.
No additional questions.
Okay. We're down to 12 attendees. Bola, how long do you want to hang on for?
We have additional question that just came.
Okay, thank you.
Will we know the results of the survey for future projects and how they will be prioritized?
Sure. So we do know the results of the survey. I'm going off memory. Eric and Andy, maybe you can help me out, but I think end of 2019, you all presented the survey results to the Board of Aldermen. So that presentation, along with the survey, should be on the website, brentwoodbound.org, and we can make sure it's on there. But that Planning Design Studio and Eric did a great job going through how the survey was conducted, what the results were, and so yeah, that's all accessible.
And it is on the website, yes.
Great, thanks for verifying that.
And the next question, will the old Sonic building be removed on Manchester?
No, the MoDOT will need some right of way from that building, but there is currently no plan for MoDOT nor the city to acquire the Sonic building.
And the next question, is it possible to make the roadway down Pendleton into the park and then into Executive Walk Apartments?
Craig, I
Phil,
can take that one.
go ahead, Andy.
Unless you want to take it, Phil, I'll start.
Okay.
We could do that, but the downside of that is that we would not have the ability to, it would eliminate the soccer field. And we'd actually have to build more road to get around the east side of Executive Walk Apartments to get the road in there. So we'd be building a lot of road that we really wouldn't need if we could just come in right off of Brazeau and into the parking lot. So we're building additional road under that option, and we're eliminating a soccer field. There's one other consideration, there's some steep grade through there as well. So that would be something else that would need to be considered. So I think for that reason, we really don't want to do that option because we'd eliminate the soccer field, and we'd be bringing a roadway into a park where under the scheme that we currently are operating under, we have a soccer field in that green space.
And the next question, are there any new companies planning to come on Manchester between Brentwood and Hanley once the project is over?
Bola, maybe you can help me out with this, but I'm not aware of any new companies at this point, but the city is actively talking with developers and starting the development process to work with the developer to start encouraging new companies and new developments to occur in the Brentwood Bound area.
Thank you, Craig. That is correct. In the immediate future, the city will be releasing a redevelopment request for proposal for redevelopment of the areas that the city will no longer need after completing the Brentwood Bound project. So ultimately that will go through the Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation as well. So we are looking at a workshop with the board later on this summer to discuss that at length. But at this time, there is no particular business or company that has indicated they will be coming into that area, nor has the Board of Aldermen approved that yet.
And an additional question, have any of your team actually walked this, or I think that's supposed to be walked this area?
Yes, all of the team has spent a tremendous amount of time. I know Jacobs has spent many times walking through the creek. Planning Design Studios walked the park a lot. The Navigate group is actively working with the demolition contractors in the area, along with staff. I mean, Eric is down there routinely in Northwest Park. So yes, the whole team has walked this area.
Yeah, I was out there yesterday afternoon, most recently, and I've spent a lot of time along the creek, a little bit of time in the creek, so we've been out there quite a bit.
Next question, will there be sidewalks on Manchester from Brentwood to the Metro as residents walk from home to the link?
Andy, I'll give you this one.
I believe, I want to make sure that I understand the question. When they say walk, they're assuming the Metrolink station in Maplewood. Is that what you guys are understanding that question to mean? There will be
Yes.
sidewalks on both
Yes.
sides. There will be sidewalks on both sides of Manchester Road, and there'll be sidewalks on both sides of the bridge, I believe, the New Hanley Bridge as well. So people can actually walk along Manchester Road. And if they take a bus and get off the bus stop, they can walk and catch Metro, or vice versa, or any combination.
And this is another one from Anonymous. Walking the area of the proposed Brazeau executive walkway? Question mark. The grade, so it looks like the grade here is greater than Pendleton Road? Question mark. So.
I don't know exactly if the grade's greater or not, but we can make that connection from Executive Walk to Brazeau. We're sure of that.
And the team has walked those streets as well.
Yeah, I was there last week looking at that.
Yep. Looks like we're down to 11 attendees. 10.
No additional questions at this point.
It takes us a little while to come up with these questions, so I don't know that there's any hurry to wrap this up before the 6 o'clock time, to give people enough time to think. Another question?
Another question.
Perfect.
Sorry, Ebola. What happens to the storm sewer entrance at this proposed entrance?
All right, so we have a grading plan with the swale that'll drain to an inlet. But I'm going to take a look at the drawing so I can make sure I answer this correctly. All right, so yeah, there are 2 storm sewer inlets on Brazeau, on either side of Brazeau, south of the Executive Walk apartment entrance. Those will remain, and the new entrance area will drain to a swale on the south side of the new entrance, and that drainage will eventually make it to an existing inlet.
Thanks, Phil. Looks like we're down to 8 attendees, which apparently I think is Alderman, Gravers Greenway. Actually, there's a woman named Kate Chapman. So there's one resident appears still on here. Well, Kate, thanks for hanging in there with us. Oh, she just dropped. Okay, we're down to 6, which includes Alderman Leahy, Brian would Navigate, the mayor, Jeff with Planning Design Studio, Alderwoman Tice, and Shaughnessy Daniels with Great Ridge Greenway. So we have no more residents on here. So unless anyone disagrees, we can adjourn. You're on mute, Bulla.
Thank you all.
Yeah, great job, everyone. Thank you for your help. So Janet recorded this, so this will all go on Brentwood Bound's website. So if other residents want a recap of this, you know, tomorrow or a year from now, we have this record of this presentation for anyone's use in the future. So thanks all for the hard work put in to do this. It turned out great, and we will adjourn.